Do you think that an Anitya Helgard can deal with Luin? The haggard prince's fingers trembled and he shook his head. No. Back then, Night King Jinwu used an Anitya Helgard to poison Luin, but Luin neutralized it. Brother, you should know. I know, but the Anitya Helgards have changed. They've become even more poisonous and ruthless, young Emperor Qing coldly stated. The haggard prince lowered his head, not knowing how to respond. He was hesitating over whether or not he should tell young Emperor Qing that Luin already knew about the Anitya Helgards. He did not want to, but if he used an Anitya Helgard to deal with Luin and failed, then not only would young Emperor Qing suffer, but he would also suffer. Even if young Emperor Qing was fine, Luin would still expose that he knew about the Anitya Helgards, and young Emperor Qing would not let him off. The haggard prince was caught between a rock and a hard place. There was also the possibility that an Anitya Helgard might be able to deal with Luin. After all, it was impossible for Luin to detect the Anitya Helgard's poison in advance, and the haggard prince still held onto a sliver of hope. Thank you for your support, brothers. A new year has begun. Everyone is going to be rich. This is the simplest and most sincere blessing. Do you understand? Kai Lai straightened his back. I understand. Rest assured, Alliance Leader Lu. I definitely won't disappoint you. He decided to increase the price by 5 times. Luin patted Kai Lai's shoulder and praised him. Good, that's the attitude of a qualified businessman. I hope that your stock won't disappoint me for the next item. Money isn't an issue, and as long as I'm satisfied, I won't mind adding another layer to your price. Kai Lai was encouraged as this person was just too rich. There were some items that he hadn't planned on taking out, as they were all the Reliance Pavilion's core treasures. The manager had also warned him not to take them out unless it was absolutely necessary, unless he met someone with a lot of money. Kai Lai knew that he had met someone with a lot of money. Manager, I've met someone with a lot of money. This person even offended you in the past, so I'll take revenge for you. With the mentality of wanting to rip off the customer and take revenge, as well as the pride of not wanting to be looked down upon by others, shopkeeper Kai took out the third item. It was a drop of liquid that was suspended in the bottle. It looked like a teardrop and was colorless. Alliance Leader Lu, this is poison. It's called benevolent tears, Kai Lai said solemnly. At the same time, Manager Yi couldn't hold himself back and contacted the Reliance Pavilion's people in front of Xiao Huangqing to ask what Luin had purchased. When he heard that Luin hadn't bought anything from the first 8 floors, his heart sank. When he found out that Luin had entered the 9th floor, he gritted his teeth and ordered someone to tell Kai Lai not to take out anything precious. But the next moment he found out that Kai Lai had taken out a 7-colored source box, and his heart began to bleed. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 1767. Luin was led by an attendant to a private room. There was only a single window that faced the stage. There was plenty of food and drinks prepared in the room, and there was a girl chained up in a corner. She was dressed in revealing clothing and had a vacant look in her eyes. However, she was exceptionally beautiful and had a hint of innocence to her, which was enough to attract the attention of any man. Luin frowned. There were too many dark sides to the universe, and many people lived lives that were worse than death. This girl was no exception. He had the attendant take the girl away and then sat down quietly. The shop owner stood in front of him and Luin said, "Sit down." The shop owner trembled as he sat down. "What's your name?" Luin asked as he still did not know the shop owner's name. The shop owner respectfully replied, "My name is Chang Wu, but you can just call me Little Five. You even know where the secret auction is. You're doing pretty well." Chang Wu bitterly replied, "It's not that I want to know, but it's just a coincidence. Once I was chased by someone and accidentally entered that dark alley. I entered the long corridor and was questioned about my assets. I thought that they were trying to rob me, and it was only after I was chased away that I remembered hearing about the secret auction." Luin nodded and did not ask any more questions. He then looked at the stage. Not long after, a man walked out from the stage. He wore a mask that obscured his face, but he was only an enlighter. His rune lines could not fool Luin. Everyone should be clear about the rules of this auction. We only provide the location and are responsible for the auction, but we are not responsible for the source of the items being auctioned. If you have any items that you wish to auction, please contact us. Next, let's welcome the first auction item, the 16 bottles that old Poison Ghost created when he was alive. There is no starting bid. The void above the stage distorted, and a light barrier appeared. 50,000 star essence. Someone immediately called out the moment the 16 bottles appeared. His voice had clearly been processed and it sounded very stiff. 60,000 star essence. 80,000. 90,000. Lu Yin was curious. Old Poison Ghost? Chang Wu bowed. Old Man Poison Ghost was a powerful enlighter from my divine Gu dynasty. He was a cruel person and he once massacred a planet with his poison. In the end, he was exterminated by the divine Gu dynasty. The poison that he left behind is extremely powerful, and it has high research value. Lu Yin wasn't actually that interested in poisons, and he would be fine as long as he upgraded a few of them. He didn't expect to use poisons against his enemies, and he also didn't want the Great Eastern Alliance's army to be proficient in using poisons. Although there were thousands of cultivation methods, poison still gave people a sinister feeling, which made them unsuitable for the Great Eastern Alliance. In the end, Old Poison Ghost's 16 bottles were purchased for 200,000 star essence. Following that, the auction items appeared one after another. Most of them were poisons which disappointed Lu Yin. No matter how precious these poisons were, they could not compare to Tears of the Benevolent or Impermanence, which were already the pinnacle of poisons in the Divine Gu dynasty. After a while, Lu Yin grew bored and Chang Fei could tell that he was bored. My lord, the most expensive items in the Divine Gu dynasty are poisons and goo. If you're not interested in those two items, then there's nothing worth buying. My Divine Gu dynasty doesn't have much contact with the outside world, so what you need might not be available here. Can anyone use them? The astral source universe isn't something that ordinary people can come into contact with. Balsam replied, currently only a hunter can use them as only a hunter's physical body can barely work with the astral source pill to travel through the astral source universe. However, we're already in the process of developing even more effective astral source pills, and we're confident that even explorers can use them. Everyone was shocked. If this was true, then the future of battle would change drastically. The escape bead only increased one's speed, but the astral source pill could allow one to instantly enter the heavens. Even a hunter would find it difficult to kill an explorer. Mr. Yu leaned forward with a cold expression. Why didn't we know about this astral source pill? Balsam looked at Mr. Yu. Mr. Yu was referring to the Hall of Honor and the Board of Governors. Once a peerless item like the astral source pill was successfully developed, it was reasonable to inform the Hall of Honor first. It's probably because the news spread slowly. We've already submitted the information about our successful research in advance, Balsam replied. Mr. Yu's eyes narrowed. This woman's answer was obviously perfunctory. Shamrock Enterprises? Fine, he would remember that. Young Empress Qing looked at Balsam solemnly. Many thanks to Shamrock Enterprises for thinking so highly of my Divine Gu dynasty. I'll accept your gift. Balsam bowed slowly. I wish your Majesty Empress Qing the best of luck in breaking through to a power level of 1,000,000 and standing at the peak of the universe. Young Empress Qing smiled. I'll be counting on your auspicious words. Miss Balsam, do you have any extra astral source pills that you can sell to Maiwan family? Wen Yao asked as he looked at Balsam with a burning gaze. In the spirit palace, the little mountain god and the rest were all staring at her. Balsam smiled. The astral source pills will become the star product of Shamrock Enterprises, and a batch will be sent to each family before the official sale. They should be on their way to each family now, including. She then looked at Lu Yin. The Great Eastern Alliance. Lu Yin's expression changed. Shamrock Enterprises had sent astral source pills to the Great Eastern Alliance? He had a bad premonition. Balsam had tried to probe his usage of the astral source pills several times, and she had suspected that something had happened to the pills in his hands. However, she had been unable to find any clues. Lu Yin had directly handed the matter of contacting Shamrock Enterprises to Cheong Shir, but he had not been able to tell her the real reason. If Shamrock Enterprises directly sent a batch of astral source pills to the Ross Empire's stronghold, what would the consequences be? Would the sapling be discovered? Lu Yin did not know what Balsam was thinking. He was certain that this was Shamrock Enterprises probing, and they had grasped the perfect opportunity to do so. Balsam stared at Lu Yin, and when she saw that his expression had changed, she moved her fingers. There was indeed a problem. The astral source pills that had gone out of control were related to Lu Yin. Lu Yin and Balsam exchanged glances, and both of them seemed to be able to read each other's intentions. No one was truly stupid, and Lu Yin had never believed that others were stupider than him. He had merely relied on certain advantages that allowed him to take the initiative and predict events with godly foresight. However, Balsam was the president of Shamrock Enterprises' Innerverse, and her schemes were far from ordinary. This included the Sword Sect's Lu Qinjue's plan. If not for his destiny and background, he would have been played to death a long time ago. Scheming against others would eventually lead to being schemed against. Lu Yin was certain that he had been schemed against by Balsam at this moment. She looked at the head judge and Kuei Luo as the scales appeared beneath her feet. 7 sky gods, the Forgotten Ruins god, traitor of the Wang family. Kuei Luo walked out and glared at Yuan Miaomiao, his eyes filled with killing intent. The head judge and Yuan Miaomiao stood on opposite ends of the scales. So you're the Forgotten Ruins god. The veil on Yuan Miaomiao's face fell, revealing her alluring face. The passion flower imprint was especially alluring, but she didn't care about the head judge or Kuei Luo. Instead, she looked at Lu Yin with a strange gaze. When did you find out? Lu Yin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. The battle at the palace. Yuan Miaomiao was astonished. So you were the one who called Qing Ping in that half-ancestor? I didn't reveal any flaws and you couldn't have seen through me. I don't need to explain to you, Lu Yin said in a low voice. Why did you approach me? You're even willing to expose your research on origin gravity and vitality poison? I don't need to explain to you either. Yuan Miaomiao smiled. You brought me to the Crimson Hell and told me about that piece of information to test me. You don't even know about it. Do you dare to bet? Ha Lu Yin, I'm starting to admire you more and more. If you can tell me why you suspected me the first time, I'll spare your life in the future. Yuan Miaomiao looked at Lu Yin with bright eyes. You won't have the chance, Lu Yin sneered. Yuan Miaomiao ran her fingers through her hair. Xia Shang said the same thing but he couldn't do it. Lu Yin's expression changed. Xia Shang was Progenitor Chen's name. This woman had indeed interacted with Progenitor Chen, and the mark on her face was real. Cut the crap. Let's deal with you first. Kuei Luo attacked, and the head judge didn't hesitate. Both of them attacked Yuan Miaomiao at the same time. Yuan Miaomiao's gaze was still not on them but on Lu Yin. Her lips moved. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. The terrifying spiritual force support caused Yuan Miaomiao's body to crumble. She didn't put up much resistance but Lu Yin couldn't see this. This was a battle between half-ancestors, and even if he could see through the astral source universe, he couldn't see what was happening. The last thing Yuan Miaomiao had left him was a silent message, I'll be back. These were her last words to Lu Yin. Everything had gone smoothly from the moment Lu Yin had discovered her true identity to the moment he had exposed her and then killed her. Everything had gone smoothly from start to finish, so smoothly that Lu Yin felt like it was surreal. He looked at Kuei Luo but the man didn't seem happy. She said she'll be back for me? What does that mean? She's not dead? Lu Yin asked anxiously, feeling like he was being watched by a dead person. Kuei Luo sighed. It's very difficult to kill a 7 sky gods with our strength. The head judge said, it's a shell of a 7 sky gods. It's the same. Kuei Luo was dissatisfied and he glanced at the head judge. He had been unhappy with this person for a long time. This person clearly wasn't a half-ancestor, but even Kuei Luo couldn't see through him. It's not the same. Lu Yin couldn't help but ask, what shell? Kuei Luo rolled his eyes. The 7 sky gods in the wastelands and the 7 sky gods in the astral tree domain are just shells of the true 7 sky gods. The true 7 sky gods are progenitors, and they're incomparably ancient. They're progenitors that surpass your understanding. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. So they really were progenitors? He had been wondering why the 12 Marquises had listened to the shaman spirit god and why the 7 sky gods had wandered around the 5th mainland and the astral tree domain without being killed by a progenitor. No wonder. Those 7 old fellows have lived for too long. Even if they roam around the wastelands, they're just shells driven by their strength. Suitable? Wang Wen was uncertain. Lu Yin glanced at him. Do you have a more suitable candidate? Wang Wen shook his head. Their foundation is too weak. Alright, that's the only way. Lu Yin continued reading through the plan. Aside from the 10 allied armies, there were also 3 special legions. They were the giant bloodline Lu Xuanjuan's army, and the newly formed Heavenly Sin army. Lu Xuanjuan's army and the giant bloodline did not need to be changed, while the Heavenly Sin army would be formed from the Sylvan Dragon clan and the evildoers from the smaller flow zones. The commander would be Thunder Axe. The Heavenly Sin army had great potential for growth in the future, and Lu Yin glanced at the Cosmic Tree domain. The four-way scales had placed powerhouses who disobeyed them in the Star Alliance, and the Heavenly Sin army had been created based on this template. In the future, this would be the four-way scales' home. Now that the Innerverse was nearly unified, the Great Eastern Alliance had a total of 14 envoy-level powerhouses under its command. They were the Second Night King, Emperor Lu, Ling Taizu, Lu Qinjue, Ling Qiu, Mountain God, Madame Yu, Abel Phoenix, Elder Lian Xan, Chen Huang, Emperor Luo, as well as the Sea King, the Elders, and the Ice Empress who could be asked for help at any time. If the Erudite Flow Zone joined the Great Eastern Alliance, then 2 more emissaries would be added, which would be Wen Zizai and President Han. The Great Eastern Alliance's emissaries would then reach 16. Including himself, that would be 17. 17 emissaries was something that even the Neoverse behemoths would not be able to achieve by themselves. Perhaps the Hall of Honor could hide many emissaries, but Lu Yin did not believe that they had that many. Of course, Lu Yin did not know how many emissaries the Hall of Honor had in total, including their subordinate organizations and the number of modified emissaries. Furthermore, the Hall of Honor's top experts could easily wipe out all of them, which was incomparable. However, Lu Yin at least had the courage to compete with any organization. He just lacked an absolute powerhouse to oversee the situation, and he thought of Kuei Luo and the Red Madam, who was currently under Kuei Luo's control. After some quick calculations, he realized that he had 2 more emissaries. With a happy heart, Lu Yin went to the botanical garden and waved at the sapling that was swaying its branches on top of a large tree. The sapling's branches moved, and it immediately ran towards Lu Yin. It was very happy, but the big tree was so focused on escaping that it even forgot to eat or sleep. The sapling jumped onto Lu Yin's head, but Lu Yin pursed his lips and grabbed it. "I'm not a big tree. Don't get on top of my head." The sapling was very happy, and its branches wrapped tightly around Lu Yin's fingers. Lu Yin could feel its happiness. "Your Highness, these are the Astral Origin pills that Shamrock Enterprises sent over." Qiong Shir came over and handed the pills over to Lu Yin. Shamrock Enterprises had publicly announced the Astral Origin pills during the Divine Gu Dynasty's banquet, and it had caused a huge commotion in the universe. Countless powers had wanted to purchase them, but before that, Shamrock Enterprises had sent Astral Origin pills to many of the major powers. The one who had sent the pills to the Ross Empire's stronghold had been the Xiaoye King. It was also at that time that the Xiaoye King had discovered the sapling. Lu Yin took the sealed Astral Origin pills, and the sapling wrapped even tighter around his fingers. "What has Shamrock Enterprises been up to recently?" Lu Yin asked. Qiong Shir replied, "They've been wantonly promoting the Astral Origin pills. Nothing else." "What about us?" Lu Yin asked. Qiong Shir continued, "Right, the Xiaoye King invited you to Shamrock Enterprises headquarters as a guest before he left." Lu Yin nodded.